Hello folks, and welcome to GED Microlearning. This is a YouTube channel that is specialized on GED math test questions. So, as you know, when you take the GED is actually composed of 5 different types of questions. So you'll have multiple choice, drag and drop, fill in the blank, hotspot questions, and drop-down menu. So right now I'm trying out these 5 types of questions in our weekly quizzes. Let me know in the comments below if you have a chance if this is something that is useful for you, or if you want just multiple choice questions as we have been doing in the past few months. I'll be testing this in January. If I don't see any interest, then I'll just go back to multiple choice. Okay, and with that, let's get started. Okay, so the first question is a fill-in-the-blank type question, and it says for the triangle below, type the value for C in the box below, rounded to the nearest tenth. And you can see that they give you a right-angle triangle. And here what they want you to do is that they want you to use the equation for the Pythagorean theorem. Okay, so there's this law in math that says that if you have a right-angle triangle, the 2 shorter legs of the triangle, so A and B squared, so A squared plus B squared, would be equal to C squared. So that's essentially what they want you to do in this problem. So you would take that equation and then you would introduce the values that they already gave you. So you would say 4 squared plus 6 squared is equal to C squared. That works out to 16 plus 36, or 52. And notice that you have that exponent on the right side, okay? So you have that C squared. How do you get rid of that squared number? Well, the way that you do it is by using a square root, okay? So remember that square roots and exponents are they kind of cancel each other out. Okay, so if we take the square root of 52 and also the square root of C, that would leave us with 7.2 is equal to C. Okay, so that's the length of side C. And then all you have to do is type your answer in that box that they provide. All right, so simplify the following expression. So they're giving you this really long expression and asking you to simplify. So let's take it step by step. So the first thing you want to do is you want to take that minus sign and multiply it by every one of the numbers inside the bracket. Okay, so a negative sign multiplied by positive 7 would be negative 7x squared. A negative sign multiplied by positive 6x would give you negative 6x. And a negative sign multiplied by a negative 9 would give you a positive 9. All right, so that's the first thing that you're going to do. Now, what you want to do next is obviously you cannot add all these terms as they are right now. So what you have to do is combine like terms. What does that mean? So it means that you have to add all of the numbers that have an x squared together. Then you have to add all the numbers that have an x, and then you just add all the whole numbers. Okay, so we'll start with the numbers that have an x squared attached to them. So 19x squared minus 7x squared would give you 12x squared. Then we look at the expressions that have an x value. So you had 4x plus 5x minus 6x. That gives you 3x. And finally, we're going to go ahead and add the whole numbers, which gives you 8 plus 9 is equal to 17. Okay, and that's all there is to the question. So your correct answer would be option A. All right, so this next problem is an example of what they call hot spot questions, where basically they're going to give you maybe a graph or a number line, and you have to actually physically interact with the number line and make like a symbol or a mark on it. Okay, so here it says, using the number line below, click the location where the fraction 4/7 would be placed. Okay. So you can see that you have 0, 1/2, and 1. I personally, I'm not very good at, eyeballing fractions, so I like to make them into decimal format. It's easier for me. So if we change that into decimals, okay, that's kind of gives you like an idea of where things are on the number line. And then if you take that number they gave you, 4/7, it gives you 0.57. So now it's very easy for you to realize where that fraction has to go on your number line. Okay, and as we said, you have to physically interact with this number line, so you would just take your pointer and click in the correct section. Justin got promoted from part-time to full-time. His weekly pay increased from $240 to $452. To the nearest percent, by what percent did his income increase by? All right, so this is going to be a two-step problem. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to find out what the increase in pay was. Okay, so you would subtract the old pay, the part-time pay, from the new full-time pay. Okay, so it would look like this. So 452 minus 240 is equal to $210. Okay, that's how much his pay has increased by. And then step 2 is you want to find out what percentage increase this was. So what you would do here is you would take that 210 that we just figured out, and then you would divide it by his original pay, which was 240, and that's going to give you 0.875, which we round up to 88%. Okay, option D. So question 5 is an example of one of these questions that they call drop-down menu. And again, what usually happens is that they'll give you a statement and then they'll give you a graph that you have to figure out. And you'll have this drop-down menu, so when you click on it, it gives you kind of the answer options that you could choose. All right, so before we tackle this question, let's remind ourselves how to read a number line graph. So as always, first thing you want to do is if there's a title, look at the title, because that's going to tell you what this graph is about. The next thing you want to do is you want to look at the y-axis, okay, the vertical axis. So in this case, we're looking at a graph that is telling us what the monthly payroll in a company was, and the y-axis is telling us how many thousands of people were on the payroll. And then when we look at the x-axis, the horizontal axis, this is telling you how many people were on the payroll each month from April to January. Okay, so in this case, we don't have a title to our graph, but we know from the y-axis we're looking at the concentration of drug in a person's blood in milligrams per milliliter. And then if we look at the x-axis, it's telling you the concentration of drug at specific times throughout the day, okay, starting from 8 in the morning till 2 p.m. And the question is asking you, when did the patient have the highest concentration of medication in their blood? So all you want to do here is you want to follow that graph to the highest peak, which is this one. Check your x-axis, so that would be at 11. And then if you follow your axis to the left, to the y-axis, you can see that his concentration was, I don't know, more than 50, 55, okay? So that's the highest concentration. So then to select your answer, as we said, drop down menu, and it tells you the time. Just click on 11. A plumber cut two lengths of pipe measuring 2.2 meters and 1.8 meters from a 7-meter pipe. Assuming no pipe was wasted when the cuts were made, what is the length in meters of the remaining piece? All right, so the top number that the top line that you can see there in the image is the 7-meter pipe. And then they're telling us in the question that he cut it into these 3 pieces. And the first piece was 2.2, second piece 1.8, and we have to find out the third piece. So our equation would basically look like this, right? Piece 1 plus 2 plus 3 is equal to the total pipe length. We know that the first piece is 2.2 plus 1.8. The third piece we don't know, but we do know that the total length of the pipe is 7. Okay, so you would add those numbers up, and you end up with this equation. 4 plus x is equal to 7. And now it's just a regular algebra problem, right? So what do you do to isolate that x on the left side? You subtract 4. Okay, so whatever you do to the left side in algebra, remember you also have to do it to the right side. So we'd subtract 4 from the right side. That gives us x is equal to 3. Correct answer is B. All right, so the next type of question is an example of what they call a drag and drop. And I'll explain in a second what that looks like. But you'll have a question and then with 2 blank boxes, and at the bottom you have answer options. So this is a quick video, right? So if you have those answer options at the bottom, and basically you click on whatever box you want, it usually changes to a blue color, and you just drag it into the answer section. If you make a mistake, all you have to do is just click on that little box, and it will allow you to move, excuse me, it will allow you to move things back and forth, okay? So you don't have to worry if you made a mistake. All right, so that's kind of like the logistics. So it's telling you to complete each equation by dragging the expression and dropping it into the box below. So if we do the first equation, so 4 multiplied by x minus 5 would be 4x minus 20. If you do the second one, 6x minus 2x plus 3. So remember, you have to do like terms first. So 6x minus 2x is 4x, and then plus 3. And all you have to do next is then drag those options, answer options from the bottom boxes and place them in the answer boxes provided. All right, so our next question is a geometry question. And remember that for geometry, all the equations are provided for you, but I definitely suggest that you have a quick look at the formula sheet before you actually go to your test so that you know where everything is and you can find things quickly on the test day. So it's asking you here, what is the surface area in square centimeters of a cylinder with a height of 8 centimeters and a radius of 4 centimeters? All right, so this is the formula for the surface area of a cylinder, right? So it's 2 pi multiplied by radius by height plus 2 pi radius squared. So all you're going to do is you're going to take those numbers that they've provided in the equations and plug them in where they have to go. And that multiply those numbers out and figure out the exponent. That gives you that. And then you end up with 64 pi plus 32 pi, which is 96 pi. So your correct answer would be C. All right, so the next type of question is one of these fill in the blank type of questions. And it's asking you to find out the percentage of a number. So what is 15% of 120? And all you have to do here, I kind of like to go by the book and always do it the same way so I don't get confused. So remember, there's this very useful percentage rule that tells you that the total multiplied by the rate or a percentage is going to give you the part, right? So if you want to know what the percentage, what part of 120 is 15%, what you would do is you would take those numbers, right? Your total is 120. Multiplied by the rate, which you would put in decimals, 0.15, gives you the part, which is 18. And then you would simply type in your response in the box. All right, question 10. So what is the value of the expression 2 divided by x raised to the 3 negative when x is equal to 3. All right, so before we tackle this problem, let's remind ourselves a little bit about exponents and specifically about what happens when you have a negative exponent. Okay, so whenever you have a negative exponent, what that's telling you is that you have to rewrite your equation so it's the reciprocal, okay, so it's dividing. So x raised to the minus 2 is really this, 1 divided by x raised to the second power. So let's do one practice question. So let's say that you have 5 raised to the minus 2. So we would rewrite it like this. And then it's just a regular exponent. Okay, so 5 squared is actually the same as saying 5 times 5. Okay, but just remember that you have to flip it over. All right, so let's go back to the question. And if you look there, we have that negative exponent. So the first thing we want to do is we want to rewrite that equation and then plug the x value that they give us. So x raised to the minus 2 would actually be this, 1x raised to the second power. If we add that 3 that they tell us in the problem, it would be this. And then if you work out that exponent, 3 raised to the second power is actually 3 times 3, or 1/9. All right, so that's the first step. And now we can go ahead and solve the problem. So what is 2 divided by 1/9? So remember that when you're dividing by a fraction, you can also multiply by the reciprocal, meaning that you can flip the fraction around and just simply multiply. So in this case, the answer would be 18. Okay, which is option C. Okay, folks, so that is it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know in the comments below what you think about having different types of questions, if you like having this mix, or if you don't. I'm just trying it out for this month, but it really helps me to decide how I can serve you better and how we should structure your quizzes. Thanks again for watching. If you found it useful, please consider subscribing, sharing with your friends or colleagues on your social media, and have a terrific rest of your day.